A good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Sorry I'm getting to you so late. Um, it's been a busy week. Amongst the things that have been busy this week is that Baruch Hashem, we started a new series last night at the Kilas Avas Yisrael, material from my Sefer on the Yud Gimel Ikrim. Giving highlights from the Sefer. Last night was our first session, but it's all recorded. So if you weren't able to make it, we could send you the recording and you could easily catch up. And we also generally give a quick recap at the beginning of every session, what we said the session before. So that's a happy development, which one of the reasons why things got delayed and get to the Hachaim yesterday. And once we're making announcements, so Be'ezrat Hashem, Bli Neder, I'd like to start a Maharal shir. Many of you know I was recently in Prague, and I'm a descendant of Maharal, and I was honored to speak at the Maharal's, standing next to the Maharal's place in the Outnow Shul. And I will post, the talk that I gave, as well as the other shiurim I gave in course of the 3-day trip to. We were 2 days in Prague, 1 day in Karastir, and I'll post all that, Bli Neder. But I kind of made a commitment. I have to get back into learning Maharal, the work of my illustrious ancestor. And since what's happening now in the world, everyone knows Achris Hayomim is coming. We're in the end game. Things are heating up domestically and internationally. So I thought, it would be appropriate to give a shir in the Maharal Sefer, Netzach Yisrael. That's his book about the end of times. So very apropos. And I hope to do it, at least once a week, hopefully, or it'll be done here, a live stream, which is archived on my YouTube channel and on my website. And another thing I'd like to do is I came across this. This is my Sefer Kuzari. You can tell it's very well worn. This is the very first Machshava Sefer I learned when I was very, very young. First year Beis Medrash. And it's like bumping into an old friend you haven't seen in a while. See this very same Sefer. So I'm going to teach Kuzari also at least once a week, Bli Neder, Bli Shvua, also through the YouTube channel and my website. And that's where it's archived if you can't catch it in real time. So these are some major developments, Be'ezer Hashem. So as we, we mentioned when we first launched this series, the Hachaim on Parshas, that it's a big skula for refuah, as we said in the very first session that we gave. And this session in particular is dedicated L'Refuas. Just looking for the names. The names to have in mind. Please bear with me. Of course, not the it's all betושח Yisrael. But one is Chana Sara Leah Bas Mמציא, לרפו שמה תקף ומיד בתושח Yisrael, and רינה Bat Aster, לרפו שמה בתושח Yisrael, תקף ומיד. Okay, without further ado, the very opening pasuk in this week's parsha, Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe v'Omer elav ani Hashem. Hashem spoke tough. Vayidaber is Lashon Dibros Kosher. Elokim, the divine name Elokim. But it immediately says, Ani Hashem, I'm Yud Kei Vav, V'Omer elav, and he says to him, Ani Havaya. It's a strange pasuk, right? If it's Vayidaber Elokim el Moshe, if it's Elokim, so why is it introducing his other divine name? Now, it's very interesting that the Hachaim I don't believe he mentions this, but it's very self-evident. Vayidaber is Lashon Kosher, so Vayidaber goes with Elokim, and that you understand it's Midas Hadin, right, the attribute of judgment. And then Vayomer is Lashon Raka, softness of Ani Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei is the shame of Rachamim, right, which also, so you understand the shift in verbs, but you have to say, like, talk about two opposites. If it's Elokim talking, why is he identifying as Havaya? What is the message over here Right? Elohim is speaking, he's speaking tough, right? And then he's saying softly, Bayim Havaya. Are you being Elohim or are you being Havaya? Which is it? And the Hachaim has a lot on this, a lot of different possibilities. None of them are mutually exclusive. And I'm just going to speak, two or three of them, because they're very big principles, and it's also a nugget for my series on Yud Gimel Ikrim that I mentioned before, because we're going to come to this very same point that the Hachaim says when we get to the second out of the 13 principles of Hashem's unity. We're going to refer to this same principle that the Hachaim, reads into the pasuk. So putting it all in context, right? Moshe Rabbeinu is complaining, Lama Lamazeh Shlachtani at the end of Parshas Shmos, right? He complained, ever since you sent me, things got worse, not better. So Hashem is continuing his response that starts in last week's parsha, but it continues this week's parsha. Vaydaber Elokim el Moshe. So Vaydaber Lashon Kosher Midas Hadin, and Hashem is saying to Moshe, amongst many other things that the Hachaim sees in that, but amongst the many things he says, you're going to see, I am going to be in very tough midas, and don't you worry, Egypt's going to get punished with the full measure of midas hadin. Okay, now here's the issue. All right, what should be of concern when you say, I'm going to bring on Mitzrayim, the whole country, midas hadin. Now we'll tell you about a country, right? We're not talking about a single individual, right? Mitzrayim's going to get it, right? Right? Yeah. Paro, Mitzrayim, Paro's the king. What happens to the king affects the whole country. So we're talking about the king, we're talking about the country. What should be of concern? What about the Jewish people? They'll be stuck in the crossfire. Right? So, of course, this happens on many different levels. There is a level, Rahman al-Tzan, Kevin Shanitan Rishus Lamachab Lachbo, it's not Mavchim Ben Tzaik Russia. I don't remember. I may not be quoting the Chazal exactly verbatim, but there is a concept that when Hashem declares all hell breaks loose, because that's what that country deserves, it's bad for the tzaddikim. It's scary they get caught in the crossfire. But even without that's talking about like plague, death, bad stuff, and that's a particular gzeira of Hashem just decreeing unmitigated destruction, that the tzaddikim go down with the ship. But even on a lesser level, right? Let's say Hashem decrees that he's tanking the economy of a certain country because everything goes by the majority of deeds and the majority of people, and the majority of people and the majority of their deeds are bad. So he's tanking the economy of a country. And now I'm a tzaddik, and I do business in that country. I got my local store. This is where I live, and this is where my parnasa is. I'm going to get affected because the economy is bad. When the economy is bad, everyone suffers. So even if I'm not the cause of the economy tanking, it wasn't my sins, I'm going to get hurt, right? I will be affected. Life gets harder for everybody, even if it's not their fault. So you have to understand the concern here. Right, that if Egypt's going to get it very, very hard, the Jews live amongst the Egyptians. That's Vayomer Love Ani Hashem Ani Avaya. Right? So it says, wait a minute, but my Midas Harachamim is going to be active also. Right? And it is another perspective on something that we spoke about earlier this week. I gave a special session on this, how the Makos were Negof Mitzrayim v'Refu Yisrael, and the Hachaim is saying, listen, it'll be miyasin, but I'm going to activate my midas harachim. It's not going to be a contradiction. It'll be selective, midas hadin for Mitzrayim, but don't worry about the Jewish people. The midas harachamim will kick in also for them. So midas hadin from Mitzrayim, but the Jews will not be affected, as we see in this week's parsha. Everything, all the waters turned to blood. But if a Jew needed to draw water, for him was water. Right? So, yeah, there'll be midas din from Mitzrayim, but that will not negate that the midas harachim will be active also, and the Jews have nothing to worry about. Right? So even though they're living within and mixed in with the Egyptians, they have nothing to worry about. That's on the Hashem, right? And that's a very beautiful word that, the Ribbon Shalom now can activate, the Rachamim at the same time as Din, right? And that's a little bit of a chiddush, and I want to say another 2 points that he makes on this, and then I'll get into how we're going to come back to this this idea, the central idea that the Hachaim is reading into the pasuk in our series on Yud Gimel Ikr, when we reach the Ikr of Yichud Hashem. Right. So that's point one that he makes, right? That the even though there'll be Elokim, and you're going to see you're worried about the Egyptians they're going to pay. They're going to pay for how they made things worse ever since I sent you. But the Jewish people are living amongst them. Won't they be affected by the plagues? No. The Rachamim will kick in and save them, and they'll have their own bubble, and which also facilitates what we spoke about early in the week, that every makkah was in the Gulf of Mitzrayim for a full Yisrael. All right, that how the Egyptians were hurt was every time they got hurt, for us it was good. We got refuah from it, which we spoke about early in the week, like I said. So about Moshe, right? And Hashem showing midas hadin that he's going to punish you, but you're afraid for the Jewish people. No, Hashem, the midas harachamim will be activated simultaneously. So everything, whatever hurts the Mitzrayim, is not going to affect the Jewish people. Just the opposite. The Jewish people will benefit. As they did. They made good money just from Makas Dam. They became rich because they were able to sell water, to any Egyptian that would pay whatever price they wanted. Okay, so now then the Hachaim takes it a step further. So you might think Moshe Rabbeinu, right? That, wait a minute, won't these cancel each other out? You say you have two contradictory midas operating simultaneously. Din and Rachamim. Won't they cancel each other out? That maybe because of the Rachamim, the Mitzrayim are going to, get less punishment than what they really deserve. And maybe because of the Din, the Jews won't get enough Rachamim. So maybe they're going to interfere with each other. So he invokes the Chazal that, says that an amazing thing, right? That it's Rishaim turn Rachamim into Din for themselves, right? Even when there should have been Rachamim, but because of their bad deeds, that Rachamim flips to Din. And the other way around for the tzaddikim, if there's, if the cosmic energies were as such that there should be Din in the world, God forbid, the tzaddikim with their good deeds converted to Rachamim. So it says the Hachaim like this, this is another message over here. It's Hashem, two statements, as in two decrees that are both true. And it says it's really not what you think, Moshe. They're not going to cancel each other out. They're going to reinforce each other. The Mitzrayim with their bad deeds, any aspect of Rachamim that, permeates the space that the Mitzrayim occupy, because of their bad deeds, the Rachamim will turn to even greater Din. So they have Midas Adin, plus whatever Rachamim, permeates their space, Rishaim turn the Rachamim into Din. So they're not going to cancel each other out. Just they will reinforce each other, because the Rachamim that will, cross over with the Din, well, the Mitzrayim with their bad deeds, they convert the Midas Rachamim to Din. So it comes out that the Rachamim will amplify the Din on the Mitzrayim. Right? But the Jewish people, because they're tzaddikim, or Hashem is dealing with them as such, right? I'm just saying that because we know that on Pesach Hashem extended us credit, and we became worthy of the credit extended on Shavuos. That's what I'm alluding to. And when I say that Hashem decided to conduct himself with the Jewish people as if they are tzaddikim, right? So tzaddikim. So you say some of the midas hadin that's on the Egyptians will permeate the space where the Jews operate, but they're tzaddikim, and tzaddikim turn din into rachamim. So it comes out that these two midas are not going to interfere with each other. They will reinforce each other. It's genius, right? It's going to reinforce each other, right? But the common denominator to all this is that, Hashem's midas do not interfere with each other. Now, the point that we're going to make in our Yud Gimel Ikrim, which is the point that Marashiva Zichron Bracha made, that this is what we mean when we say God is one and indivisible. That, if the midas were divisible from each other, then they would interfere with each other. They're two separate entities that cancel out. But God is one and indivisible. So also the midas that he emanates work in perfect unity and perfect concert. Now, the point that my Rosh Yeshiva was making from that is that don't think you can manipulate God. Say, okay, I've done bad, midas adin, but I know he has a midas arachmim, and I'm going to awaken that midah, however, and that's how I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to work the system. You can't do that. Hashem's midas work in perfect concert with each other. Just like he is one, they also in Shorish are one, and they don't contradict each other. So you can have full midas adin and full midas arachamim, and the midas adin will go exactly where it's meant to go, and the midas arachamim go exactly where it's meant to go. And not only will they not interfere with each other, and we're talking about two people at the same place at the same time, right? They're going to reinforce each other. Right? Beautiful word about the unity of God, that unity of God is also the unity in the different midas that he's mashpia. They work in perfect unison, perfect concert with each other. But the Roshi wants to stress that the reason why the Ram put in the Yud Gimel Ikrim for us is that it also goes the other way. You're not going to work the system. God's midas are not contradictory that you could play one midah against the other midah. So there's a lesson for us, mitzad our being greater Ovdei Hashem, that even though Hashem has these different, he has Elokim, he has Avaya, don't think you could play the system that when you're in trouble with Elokim, you'll appeal to Havaya. It doesn't work. His midas are in perfect concert. It's not just that way in meting out punishment and also giving reward, but it's also that way that you can't work the system. And that's around when you go through that we should be proper Ovdei Hashem, we should just serve him because the right thing and don't think you could, play the system. I know this last point we're not explaining adequately, but it's not the main point that the Hachaim is making. It's not the point he's making. He's just putting it, regarding the schar va'onesh, right? And it's also, I don't want to explain it adequately because I want you to come to the shir because we're going to discuss this more at greater length. We'll get to Yichud Hashem. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos.